Good evening, everyone. It's Jessica, your theme park casual. And today's video was not actually supposed to be a Talking Heads video. As you may have already heard, Islands Adventure recently closed Velocicoaster's single rider line. And according to team members, this change is, quote unquote, probably permanent. Now, I headed to Islands of Adventure this past Friday to talk about why I didn't think this was actually all that bad of an idea.
Hello everyone, it's Jessica, your theme park casual. And today I'm talking about the news that Velocicoaster has closed their single rider line. And I'm gonna ride it a few times today and see why this might actually not be a bad idea.
After all, Velocicoaster has an amazing queue that you miss most of when you go through the single rider line. You do get to see the statue of the Raptors, but behind glass. You do get to see the pre-show, but you miss the launch tunnel and you miss the animatronic Raptor. So I got there at rope drop, pretty rare feat for me considering I come from 2 hours away. And I rode Velocicoaster 5 times before 10 a.m. And then I did attempt to ride it again at about noon. Unfortunately, it went on a delay, but I had another interesting experience in the queue there. And then I hopped over to Studios and was eating lunch at Louie's while scrolling my phone. And I came across one of the Disney blogs talking about the change and how Universal Studios' excuse was so that they could, quote unquote, fill every train. And at the time, it got me thinking about my experiences in the morning. I didn't think of the thing that happened while I was in the queue in the afternoon until I was asleep that night or woke up in the middle of the night. So the first experience was probably my third ride of the day. Again, I always go alone. I really don't have anybody who can ride rides and wants to go with me, so I was a solo traveler. And how they're working it now is they have odd-numbered groups going to the right and even-numbered groups going to the left. Now, at this point, the train is almost all the way full. I'm in the odd-numbered line, and I believe there was a group of 4 in the even-numbered line, so not somebody who could have taken that back row. So as a solo traveler, I got the back row. And then the ride attendant went down the line yelling, "I need a traveler of 1." There wasn't one. I ended up in the back row by myself. And therefore, that train went away with only 1 seat empty, but still not all the way full. And that single rider line, would have fixed that. My very next ride. This happened at the metal detectors. At this point, the wait time for the ride had jumped to 25 minutes. Now, I'm used to this. I stopped wearing a beret. I got bangs. I cover my watch. I went through the metal detectors, no problem. The group behind me was a bunch of German tourists, and they were having a lot of trouble making sure that all the metal was off their person and in the lockers. And I breezed up to the platform, walked right on the ride at that point, next train, which was only about halfway full. I was in row 5. But that blockade at the locker, at the metal detector, kept anybody else from reaching the train before they dispatched. And therefore, once again, that train did not leave the station all the way full. In fact, it was barely half full. I was in row 5. So, at this point, we can say, A, there was an incident where the single rider line definitely would have helped fill the train. And B, the backup can happen anywhere. Now, after my 5th ride, I was actually starting to feel it, so I met both Lima the baby raptor and Blue. And I went and rode Hulk, and I walked through Grinchmas a little bit. And then I came back about noon. And I was still in the hangar room with the raptor statue. And all of a sudden, on the loudspeaker, they started talking about the lockers. They're only one-time use. You have to put your stuff in the locker again after every ride. You have to take it out after every ride. You know where else there's a set of lockers? So one glimmer of hope for the single rider is they still have the lockers available and the sign. The single rider line. It's actually, I think, 2 bays. Now, this didn't hit me until about 3 o'clock that morning when I was pondering the video. So, just seemed odd that if Universal's excuse was they want to fill the train, that there were at least 2 instances where either A, the single rider line could have helped, or B, the train was not full due to other circumstances. Now, I know I'm just getting started out. I've got, 21 followers right now? But at the end of the day, I hope Universal listens to what I and others have to say. Maybe they have a better excuse. There was one time I asked the attendant outside of Hagrid's Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventure if the single rider line was open. And if you've been through that queue, the single rider line doesn't branch off until well into the queue. And they told me, there was a female who told me they would open it and close it due to capacity. And the male with her kind of admitted, yeah, sometimes it's just staffing. If they don't have enough staff, they don't open it. So if it's a staffing issue, well, I'd hope they'd hire more staff. But if it's just trying to fill the trains, closing the single rider line didn't work. So Universal, please listen to this opinion and hopefully give a better explanation or open the single rider line back up. As someone who always travels solo, this has been a tremendous thing that allows me to be out in the parks more. It does allow me to get to ride more rides. I mean, I rode the Mummy 5 times probably, single rider line each. This was during peak times, and so probably about a half-hour wait each time, and I walked right on every time. So, take it or leave it, but I do hope Universal does change their opinion on this. This is Jessica, your theme park casual, signing out.